So we get a lot of emails about a lot of different things, but a recurring pattern in my inbox is, where exactly should I be putting my focal point? Katelyn, where do you put your focal point? And so I'm going to break down not necessarily all the ins and outs of autofocus settings, but more so a practical approach to where to put your focal point in order to have the best chance of tack sharp images. All right, so we have technically already done a video where we talk about the ins and outs of AF settings. So we talk a lot about if I'm shooting with servo, and I talk about my setup and my buttons and how I'm actually shooting. And this video is more of a practical approach of what I'm actually doing and how I'm manipulating my camera while I'm shooting. So in the other video, I kind of speak to how I have a button set up on my camera to allow me to be able to utilize like eye tracking, face tracking on the R6. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that at the end of this video. But the reason why I'm going to hone in on more of like the traditional one focus point, moving that around while you're shooting, is because there are a lot of people who have not switched to a camera system that allows them to have face and eye tracking that is as accurate and great as what I have on the R6. Because honestly, when I'm shooting, this is my approach and this is what I kind of cater to. I'm more prone to shooting with one single focal point instead of eye tracking. And I know there's a lot of opinions about that, but I'm going to share more about my approach from this perspective because this is the way I'm shooting majority of the time. There is a time and a place where I think eye tracking, face tracking is more effective, and I'll break that down. But first, we're diving into a single focal point, where I'm putting that focal point, and how I am being strategic in this approach in order to get the majority of my images tack sharp all the time. So you may be thinking like, Katelyn, isn't it pretty straightforward? Like you just focus on what you want in focus. But if you were shooting with prime lenses, if you're shooting with a more shallow depth of field, there's actually more precision involved than you may realize. So you may not even realize that you're struggling with this, but these tiny little changes may make the difference between your images being just kind of soft and being super tack sharp. Okay, so rule number one, something that I have used for the past 13, 14 years of shooting, is that I am always using the smallest focal point option available to me. So I don't want a cluster. I don't want my camera evaluating and creating its own cluster of where it thinks the focus should be. I want one tiny point. And the reason for this is because the tinier, the more specific the point, the more control and precision I have over what exactly the camera is focusing on, where exactly that point of focus is going to be. So that could be the difference between a cluster of focal points being over someone's face and one point going directly over the middle of someone's eye. And when you're shooting with a high compression lens at 1.2, 1.6, 1.8, that tiny difference between a cluster of focal points and one solid focal point actually makes a big difference. Okay, so point number two is that you always want to have the focal point on the primary subject of the photograph. So this is a little bit tricky because I think that composition decisions and posing decisions actually play a big role in deciding who is actually the primary subject, who's the primary focus of the photo. And so the reason I'm telling you this tip first is because you could say, and one of my next tips is just you're going to focus on the person closest to the camera. But sometimes that doesn't exactly work as a rule to follow, because you could have a pose that has someone's body part a little closer to the camera, but really the eyes of the person that are a little further away are actually the primary focal point. So I think it's better to consider this rule above all else, and then other rules fall under this rule. So if you know when you're posing that I am trying to focus in on, maybe it's the bride and she's leaning on the groom's back or shoulder, and you want her eyes to be in focus and he's kind of looking over and it's more of a model shot, like technically he might be closer to the camera. And so the rule of focusing on the person closest to the camera is not actually going to work here. So the main goal that you have is knowing intentionality comes into play, precision comes into play. You've got to know who is the primary focus of this image. A lot of times you want to pay attention to this when you're shooting really close up. When you're more pulled back, further away, full body shot, maybe your client's out in the middle of a big field, this is less of something that you're going to really hone in on, because obviously you're just focusing on the couple. But the closer and tighter you get, the more you have to realize, okay, who do I want to be in focus mostly? Who is the grand focal point of this shot and who's secondary? And a lot of times that is determined by pose and composition. All right, rule number 3, the closer you are to your subject, the more precise you need to be. If you're shooting in a wide open space and you're pulled back and you have this really epic composition and your clients are like, nice and small in the middle of this big open space, you don't have to be quite as precise. You just need that single focal point, like somewhere on their bodies, preferably on the person closest to the camera. But when you're that pulled back, there are technical reasons why you don't have to be as precise, and really some more practical reasons as well. But if you're shooting tight, really close up, more of this intimate shot. Like, I love the pose. It's a version or a variation of the prom pose where his arms are over top of, the bride's kind of like collarbone area, and she's like laughing aside. He's nuzzling in. It's really cute. You have to be way more precise. That focal point cannot be on her chin, right? Because if she's leaning towards you, that means this whole section of her face is going to be soft and out of focus. Your focal point has to literally be on her eyelashes. And if they're not on the eyelashes, it's going to be very noticeable and it's going to look like a soft, out of focus image. You also, if you have a pose like that and you're really tight, you have to be precise and realize the groom is not part of the focal plane. Right? He's a background kind of supplementary part of the photo. He's a part of the photo, but if you want to approach this from a technical, practical perspective of focus, she's the main focal point. She's closest to the camera, and the closer you are to a pose like this, the more precise and detailed you have to be about where that focus point is going to land. You can really see this come into play when you're shooting like detail shots with a macro lens. So if you're shooting a set of 3 rings and you're getting the whole set kind of in focus versus you're trying to zoom in really tight just on like the prongs of the diamond, like just that part of the set of rings, you can tell even at the same aperture, just getting closer to that ring, all of a sudden you're going to have to decide which prong you focus on instead of when you're shooting the whole group, you're just kind of picking which ring you're going to focus on, not the exact specific prong. So that's a great way to kind of see this in action with a really detailed close-up shot, but it's the same thing with portraits, right? If you shoot really far back, really pulled back, then you have a little bit more freedom from an aperture perspective. Like you have a technical reason why you have more freedom, but from a focus perspective, you have more ability to have a little bit more wiggle room. Whereas if you get tighter and tighter and tighter and you're shooting with a lower and lower, wider and wider aperture, you have to be very, very specific with where that dot goes. So rule number 4 is that you want to focus on the person that is closest to the camera. And this applies even to group settings. So we get a lot of questions about, I have 4 rows of people at a church. Should I put my focal point on the person in the middle row so it's like more even? No. You never want to do that because focus falls backwards. What you want to do is always focus on the person closest to the camera, because even if you have someone in the back row, you need to adjust your aperture or back up a little bit in order to get them in focus. That is a way better outcome always than if you have your focal point skipping over the front row of people. That person in front, no matter what your aperture is pretty much, you'd have to have your aperture at like f11 to not have a person in front of the focal point not be blurry. Focus starts at a certain point and then it grows backwards. That's where your depth of field starts, and then it goes behind the focal point. So if you have anyone in front of that focal point, it's just a recipe for focal disaster. All right, so 5th rule is to be aware of the plane of focus. Okay, so a great example of how to think about this is, you can think about like a plane of focus is a straight line, but maybe it would help you to think about it as, what if you took a nice straight piece of paper from, like, you think about the sensor on your camera as being a straight piece of paper, and then it goes out in front of you and it's going to touch whatever it touches first. And if someone's face is straight onto the camera, it's going to touch evenly. Both eyes will be in focus if they're straight on. But if a bride or a subject, whoever you're photographing, is turned away from the camera a little bit and kind of looking this direction, what's going to hit first with that paper? This eye. This eye is not going to touch the paper at all. If you think about a bridal party, and a bridal party standing in just a slight arc, like the people on the end, I don't know why this always happens. I think people feel left out on the end, and they try to lean in so they can see what the group is doing. But that arc, if you had a big piece of paper come into this group, who's going to touch the paper first? The people at the end. And the people that are in the center of the arc, even if it's a slight arc, are actually not going to touch the paper at all. And the paper represents where the focal point starts, and where anything behind it that's too far behind it may be soft. So when you think about plane of focus, then all of a sudden you can be more aware of why you're losing focus where you thought, like, my focal point is in the right spot. I put it exactly on the eyes, right? But if the eye wasn't exactly the right eye, like if I was like being photographed right now and someone put a focal point on this far, what eye is that? That's my left eye. Left to me, right to you. If the focal point was here, then this whole side of my face shooting with a high compression lens at like anything below 2.0, this whole side of my face is going to be soft. And so that's when I said earlier about precision, like precision matters. And it really matters the wider you're shooting and with the higher compression lens you're shooting and the closer that you are. So understanding plane of focus is kind of like the last rule because it takes all of this into consideration, kind of ties it up with a bow. If you can take all the previous tips and understand plane of focus, you're in a really sweet spot to being able to create tack sharp images. Okay, so as you continue to learn more and be more aware of your focal plane, your plane of focus, then what you can do is you start to recognize that you have control over changing that. So you can either change it by changing your position, which is really just taking the piece of paper and shifting the focal plane in order to work with what you need, or you can become aware of the shift that needs to happen with the pose of your client, and you can adjust their pose in order to meet what you need. Because, for example, if something is a little bit off and you can't get what you want in focus, if they change too much, you might lose the light that you have strategically set up. But as you become more seasoned in using your knowledge, then what you can do is you can change maybe your positioning, or you can just make slight adjustments to that plane of focus in order to get the ultimate focal approach that you want without losing something like the composition and the light that you already had set up. So before we go, let's just kind of approach the whole facial, like eye tracking option with the R6, because I know I'm going to get comments about this. I think this feature it's amazing. I think it's incredibly accurate. However, I do know there's also some scenarios that I do not love it. I used it for the first time at a processional at a wedding, and it started focusing on the woman right beside where the bride was walking, and I had to change it really fast and panicked and hated it. So I don't like it in scenarios where there's a lot of different faces. I don't like it in a scenario where I feel like I am out of control and it's not choosing what I would choose. But when it comes to portraits of two people, when it comes to photographing children, like running around my own children, I choose to use facial and eye tracking because it is fast and it's accurate, and the camera does a really great job of finding normally what I want in focus. In high stress situations with a lot of people on a wedding day, I do not choose to use facial tracking because I do feel out of control, and I don't love that. It would be better for me to have more control over placing a focal point exactly where I want it during a processional or recessional, and not run the risk of a camera setting jumping to a person in the congregation or the audience, and I lose focus during a moment that I cannot recreate. So I have my camera set up to where I can use facial and like eye tracking whenever I want to. I literally just hold down, I think the top left button right above, like on the top of the grip on the right-hand side. I literally just press it while I'm shooting and it immediately starts tracking, but it's not something that I default to and use all the time, 100% of the time. So is it bad? No, it's great. Like any auto setting or auto tool on a camera, it works amazing in the normal settings of things, but it's the extremes of things that it kind of breaks down a little bit. So there's a lot of kind of extreme scenarios where you want to know how to default back to a more traditional focus setting in case you find yourself scrambling. I think my fear is for some photographers that just dive into the mirrorless world and they love facial tracking and it's amazing and it works 95% of the time, and then they're paid to capture something and face tracking or eye tracking, it's just not performing well and they're scrambling because they've never learned how to just use a single focal point and move it around. For me, there's a whole nother video where I talk about touch and drag and my setup with the R6. I found a sweet spot with this setup to be able to use, I think, the perks of what the R6, R5 have to offer. As far as touch and drag feature, that's amazing. Face tracking, eye tracking, that's amazing. I love the setup that I have because I get to use both when I need one or the other. So I hope this video gave you a lot of foundational knowledge to allow you to get the focus that you want depending on the scenario that you're shooting in. And so if you enjoyed this, make sure you subscribe so you can see other videos coming in the future. I will see you next Thursday. Bye.